Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Solely responsible for the siege of the nation's capital? That's what Democrats want to prove about President Trump during his second impeachment trial. Trump's attorneys plan to use the Democrats' own words and actions against them. The looming question is the trial itself unconstitutional? Well, my feeling is, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to backfire on the Democrats, and there's a law of unintended consequences, and they're going to reap the consequences. But anyhow, CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has that story.
Over the next few days, the House impeachment managers plan to show videos reminding the Senate jury of what they lived through on January 6th and make their case that President Trump is singularly responsible for the siege of the Capitol.
You fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
But President Trump's lawyers say his use of the word fight almost 24 times in his January 6th speech is a common political term meant to be taken figuratively. They'll also argue the FBI knew there was a threat to the Capitol days before the rally, and that the rioters acted on their own accord.
When you have the President of the United States give a speech and says you should peacefully make your thinking known to the people in Congress, he's all of a sudden a villain.
Trump's lead attorney, Bruce Castor, says they plan to use Democrats' own words against them, too, in order to make the case Trump's speech is protected by the First Amendment.
There's an awful lot of tape of cities burning and courthouses being attacked, cheered on by Democrats.
45 Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham, have already indicated they believe the trial is unconstitutional, making a conviction extremely unlikely.
The impeachment articles, I think, are unconstitutional because the president is in Florida. He's not in office.
Some people say, oh, let this go away. Oh, no. When something as horrible, as dastardly that happened on January 6th occurs, you cannot sweep it under the rug.
Meanwhile, Georgia officials are investigating the president's phone call to the Secretary of State over election results there, which could also become a part of this trial.
Senate leaders on both sides agree the trial will begin by debating and then voting on whether or not the impeachment is constitutional before proceeding. It needs only a simple majority in the Senate to pass, and with 5 GOP senators already indicating they'll vote to move it forward, a full trial is pretty much a guarantee. Pat?
Well, Abigail, take us through the timeline. What happens going forward? How long do we expect this trial is going to last?
Well, there doesn't seem to be an appetite on either side for this to be a long, drawn-out trial, so we could see that final vote on whether or not to convict as early as next week. But as I said, there's going to be that vote on the constitutionality this afternoon. The trial is likely to proceed after that, and then it will kick off tomorrow at 1 p.m. We'll start hearing the arguments. Now, each side will be given 16 hours over 2 days. They can present their case for up to 8 hours a day. They'll be given equal time. And then it will move senators will have a chance to ask questions of the lawyers. There will also be votes on whether or not to subpoena witnesses. Now, that is where we could see the trial drag out a bit, but it doesn't seem right now that either side is going to call any witnesses to testify. And then we will likely move forward to that vote over whether or not to convict the president. And it would take 17 Republicans and every Senate Democrat to vote to convict in order to bar him from ever running for federal office again, and as of now, that does not seem likely.
Well, how is this going to be different from that first impeachment trial?
Well, first, President Trump is no longer in office, so there's the first big difference. And also, in the previous impeachment trial, House managers, we spent weeks hearing testimony in the House from different witnesses, and they were telling congressmen and senators who were watching about conversations and different phone calls, emails that the congressmen and senators did not witness, and they were trying to tell them and explain to them what happened. In this case, all of the senators who are serving as the jury, pretty much all of them were there on January 6th, which is why the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats don't necessarily think there is a need for witnesses, because they're really going to just remind all the Senate jurors what happened on that day. And one of the other big differences that we'll see here, too, is that Democrats now have the majority in the Senate. So they are in the driver's seat for this impeachment trial compared to the last time around when Republicans were in the majority.
Has anybody thought about what is going to, the unintended consequences that the American people aren't too keen about wasting all this money on a done deal, because everybody agrees that there's no way that the Senate is going to impeach the president. Am I correct in that?
That is correct. It is extremely unlikely that this ends in a conviction. And so many Republicans have raised that argument. Why are they proceeding with the trial? And that is why last week there was a vote in the Senate led by Senator Rand Paul to try and prove that this trial is not constitutional and try and bring an end to it before it ever began. Because as you said, the American people right now, they still are counting on the next coronavirus aid relief package, and pretty much everything in the Senate is on hold while this trial plays out. And while it will likely be short and shorter than the last impeachment trial, it's still taking up a huge chunk of the Senate's time. It's definitely going to have an impact on President Biden's first 100 days agenda, and it's certainly going to delay other things that the American people are counting on the Senate to act on.
Abigail, thanks for that report. And ladies and gentlemen, I echo the same thing. The American people want COVID relief. They want to get their businesses open. They want to get whatever is needed to get this economy moving. And instead of that, the Democrats are in this is a quixotic adventure. It can't go anywhere, but it's going to waste millions of dollars and millions of important hours, if you will, thousands of hours of time. And it's just stupid. It is vindictive, and it's mean-spirited, and the American people don't like that. Well, in other news, there's a big wind coming from Winnetka. There was a song, a big wind from, well, there's a Green Bay of negative 23 degrees. Deadly avalanches out west that killed 15 people. Extreme winter weather is packing a wallop across America. How much more is ahead in the forecast, and who's in the path of this frigid cold? Jenna Brower's got to look at that story.
Millions of Americans are taking the polar plunge as freezing temperatures grip parts of the country. And for some places, there's more snow on the way. This dam in Wisconsin iced over as wind chills in Green Bay dropped to negative 23. Freezing temperatures reaching as far south as Oklahoma. The system now hitting the east, where they're still digging out from 2 snowstorms last week. This extreme weather creating dangerous driving conditions in places like Charlottesville, Virginia.
The problem we have now is there's going to be repetitive storms this week, maybe not that strong, and then the weekend there could be a blizzard in the Northeast, followed next week by another storm coming right on its tail. And while this is going on, it's just getting colder and colder and colder.
Out west, the winter weather is triggering deadly avalanches. 15 people killed last week, the deadliest week on record in a century.
Just came down. I pulled my chute. Didn't work. I heard Hunter yelling, and here he is. You okay, bud?
These snowmobilers in Utah made it out alive, but nearby,
City is responding on the Avalanche Mill Creek Canyon search and rescue.
A wall of snow killed 4 skiers. Another 4 were rescued. Experts say a dry fall made for a weak base that can't hold all of the snow. Perfect conditions for an avalanche. And with COVID-19 and restrictions at ski resorts, more skiers are hitting the backcountry where there's no avalanche mitigation. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
We need to tell the Biden administration, especially their climate czar, that the greatest threat facing America is not warming. It is cold out there, Mr. President. It is cold. We do not have global warming. We have global chilling. And what is coming up is another ice age, not global warming. But these guys have missed it. So we've got to join the Paris Accords, and we've got to cut back on our industry. We've got to limit everything we're doing to give the Chinese an advantage. But we have this terrible monster lurking ahead of us. It's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter until we freeze.